We all love playing first-person shooter games, especially free-to-play ones. So today we're gonna counting down 50 of the best free-to-play first-person shooter games to play right now in late 2024. And this will include some of the brand new shooter games that very recently came out, and also some popular fan favorite titles. Also gonna include few of the upcoming shooter games as well. So whether you like to play casual shooters, competitive shooters, tactical shooters, battle royale games, or just looking for the best free FPS games to play right now, I got you covered in this video. So sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. Alright, starting at number 50, we got Fistful of Frags. This is an absolute classic first-person shooter set in the Wild West times. It's a very fun and simple arena shooter where you fight with these classic weaponries like revolvers, sniper rifles, and shotgun in various style of game modes. I recently downloaded the game and checked it out. It's still fun to play, especially if you have a pretty old laptop or PC. But remember, there is only very few people playing the game nowadays. That's why I put this game so far down at number 50. Next up at number 49, we got Decidit. This is a brand new arena style of a first-person shooter with a raw-like mechanics, and it is extremely fun to play. The game set in this dark, gritty dungeon area where you fight against hordes of enemies. With each run completed, you can actually modify your weapons and abilities. And ultimately, it's all about fast-paced movement and using your arsenal and ability at the right time. It's a really cool shooter to play right now, and it is also playable completely single player as well. Moving on, next up we got World War III, a free-to-play tactical shooter that had lots of up and down since launch. It is not a bad first-person shooter to play by any means, despite having a lot of matchmaking and server issues, and over the years it did not really receive the support that it needed from the developers. But recently the dev team has changed. There's been a lot of new announcement, new update. Hopefully more stuff will be added to the game in the near future. Alright, next up we got Lost Light, a free-to-play looter shooter set in this post-apocalyptic universe. Honestly, a game that didn't really click with me at first, but a lot of you guys comment and mention and ask me to check the game out, saying that the game is pretty good and pretty fun to play. And I have to agree, the game looks pretty solid, especially if you're into looter shooters and looking for something fun to play. And the game is continuously getting updates, new content, which is also really great to see. Hellbound Survival Mode is a standalone single-player portion of the game Hellbound, and it's definitely inspired from the classic first-person shooters from the 90s. There's waves of enemies spawn in the arena. You simply have to destroy them with the weapon arsenal that you got, and the goal is very simple: survive as long as you can. Anyway, the game is free to play. It is completely single player as well, and also very much playable on your low-end potato PC or laptop. Next up we got Hired Ops, a tactical first-person multiplayer shooter built upon the popular Escape from Tarkov engine. The weapons, animations, the gunplay is pretty much similar to Escape from Tarkov. It's a pretty solid first-person shooter with a good variety of game modes, great visuals, and also very much playable even in 2024. Next up at number 44, we got Splitgate. Extremely fun, fast-paced multiplayer arena shooter with a mix of portal mechanics, and arguably one of my favorite games to play at launch. But unfortunately, the game kept getting decline in popularity as the time goes by. But with the recent announcement of Splitgate 2 going to release in 2025, it's a great time to jump back and enjoy the original game. Next up we got Pixel Gun 3D PC Edition. This is a very casual arcadey multiplayer first-person shooter with tons of fun casual game modes alongside a battle royale mode. It's a very easy to pick up and play beginner-friendly first-person shooter, definitely targeted towards more of a younger audience. But if you're into that, check the game out. It is completely free to play. Next up we got Deathly Stillness, a very impressive post-apocalyptic zombie shooter, and it is also a single-player game, but there is no story, plot, or anything like that. You just jump into a map and slay down a bunch of zombies, and it's so much fun to do. The game initially came as a third-person game, but they recently added a first-person mode, which kind of changed the game forever. It's really fun to play, definitely worth giving it a try right now in 2024. Number 41, we got Treason, a free-to-play social deduction style of a game, and it's all about teamwork and betrayal. There is two sides in the game, innocents and traitors. Innocents have to find all the clues and find out who's behind the murderer, and as a traitor you simply have to eliminate all the innocent players down before they find out what's going on. It's a really fun social game that goes back and forth, especially if you got a bunch of friends to play with you. This is a great game to check it out right now. MechWarrior Online Legends is a pretty old but a pretty fun tactical mech-based online shooter set in this beautifully vast BattleTech universe, and I feel like it's a game that a lot of people forget over the years. It's a sci-fi shooter with a lot of mechs, customization, fun game modes, and still about 800 people playing this game every single day, which is pretty cool to see. Next up we got AWOL, a single-player first-person military shooter inspired from the classic shooters from the 90s, and this game features AI teammates with unique behaviors that you can either command them to attack, defend, or hold the place. The game has old-school visual with classic gunplay, and the single-player campaign took you about 6 hours to complete. Warface Clutch may not be the most popular first-person shooter on our today's list, but the reason why I put this today is the game getting continuous update to this date recently received a very big halo Halloween update, and it's a game that I played a very long time ago, a solid first-person shooter with a good variety of maps, weapons, and fun game modes. Alright, next up we got Banana Shooter, a very casual, fun, arcade first-person shooter with a variety of goofy weapons and some unique mechanics like dash, double jump, and grappling hook. But the most fun way to play this game is making a custom game and invite bunch of your friends and just trying out the variety of game modes that the game offer, and the game should run fairly smoothly even if you have a pretty low-end potato PC or a laptop. Straftat is a brand new 1v1 shooter that very recently came out on Steam, and I'm pretty impressed with the game so far. It throws you into these arenas with another player where you have to slow down and think tactically about your next move, and ultimately it's all about taking down your opponents in style. And to make this game even more fun, the game does support proximity voice chat, makes every round feel more challenging and unpredictable at the same time. And talking about 1v1 shooters, next up we got FPS Chess, a very unique take on the first-person genre with mixing shooting mechanics with a classic game of chess. Other than playing a regular game of chess, you have to win 1v1 duels against your opponents and capture their pieces one by one until one player remains victorious. A very unique take and overall a pretty fun game to play right now. Blackscott is a free-to-play first-person shooter that I used to play pretty continuously back in the day, but few months ago I go ahead and download the game and check the game out, and still pretty fun to play. It's primarily a round-based tactical first-person shooter kinda similar to a game like Counter-Strike or Valorant, but on top of that there's also a good variety of maps, game modes, and customization available in the game. Still getting continuous update to this date, developers are still supporting the game, which is really great to see. Next up we got a brand new free-to-play first-person shooter that just came out on Steam, and that is BloodStrike. This is a very arcadey, casual first-person shooter very similar to games like Call of Duty, and even comes with a battle royale mode very similar to Call of Duty Warzone. Even though it's a mobile-based shooter, the gunplay feels pretty solid compared to some of the other games. Battle royale mode is definitely the highlight for me, but the variety of game modes that the game offers kinda surprised me, and overall it's a nice free-to-play shooter that you don't want to miss out right now in 2024. Deceit is a free-to-play first-person horror social deduction style of a game where you can play with up to 6 of your friends online, but a third of your group have been infected with a virus, and somehow if you get infected you have to simply spread the virus to other people, but if you are a survivor you have to keep surviving as long as you can. There's 2 games available, Deceit 1 and Deceit 2. Both games are free to play on Steam, but the original game is much more popular even in 2024. Alright, number 31 we got TABG, also known as Totally Accurate Battleground, a free-to-play, goofy, physics-based battle royale game. Is all about surviving till the end. The art style in this game is so unique. It's simple, goofy, fun-looking, and there's literally more than 100 plus weapons in the game, which is crazy to think about it. And the game recently had a bit of an issues with the servers, but most of the stuff already been fixed by the developers, which is great to see. So if you're into battle royale games, looking for something goofy, fun-looking, go check the game out. It is free to play. Alright, moving on at number 30, we got Ironsight, a free-to-play, fast-paced first-person shooter that I had lots of fun playing, and I'm happy to see the game is still going pretty strong in 2024. It's a casual, very arcadey Call of Duty style first-person shooter, and if you ask, I would say it's very similar to Call of Duty Black Ops 2 with boot-to-the-ground multiplayer with sci-fi gadgets. There's a great variety of maps, weapons, even a competitive game mode if you're into that. Despite having a pretty low play count, I would say the game is still worth checking out in 2024. And next up we got one of the most popular games on our list, and that is Unturned. It is a post-apocalyptic zombie survival style of a game with blocky Minecraft-like art style. It's a less of a hardcore survival game with typical mechanics like building, crafting, gathering resources, hunting, cooking, all this kind of stuff, but typically it's a third-person game, but you can easily switch between first-person mode, and it is much more preferred to play that way. Alright, next up we got a pretty cool simulation game, and that is the Hunter Classic. It's a free-to-play, large open-world hunting simulation game. You can explore different biomes and hunt down more than 45 unique species, and over the years the game received so many new content updates, and right now I believe the game had more than 100 plus weapons ranging from state-of-the-art sniper rifles to classic bows and arrows. Pretty cool game to check out right now if you're into simulation games. Alright, let's say if you're not into simulation games, but next up we got a very cool, very underrated tactical shooter on Steam, and that is Caliber. It's a team-based tactical shooter with heavy focus on the 4 different class system in the game. In terms of game mode, the game has so much to offer, from classic 5v5 round-based shooter to a typical PvE co-op modes. It is primarily categorized as a third-person shooter, but recently they added a first-person mode, makes this game even more fun to play right now. Next up we got Battle Teams 2, a fast-paced multiplayer first-person shooter. A lot of people calling this game a Chinese Call of Duty, which is something I have to agree upon. It is very much similar to a Black Ops Call of Duty game with a dedicated zombies mode as well. There's a bunch of different fun game modes, including a battle royale mode. The game is super fast-paced, very fun to play, and solid gunplay, and it's a shooter that I recommend you guys to check out in 2024. One Armed Robber is a very fun, co-op, chaotic first-person heist game where you and your friend has a task to pull off different heists on banks, shops and various type of establishment. But there is a catch: you can only use one of your hand. Makes the overall experience much more challenging and fun to play at the same time. SCP Secret Laboratory is one of the most underrated first-person horror games out there on Steam. The game set in this underground SCP Foundation during a contaminant breach where you have to survive against anomalies and ultimately escape the facility. It's a really solid first-person horror game to check out right now, and it is very much popular right now, having more than 7,000 plus daily players on Steam. Harbinger is a brand new retro-inspired classic arena style of a shooter where you fight against waves of enemies with a variety of weapons, and it is extremely fun to play. It's a simple boomer shooter inspired from classic 90s style games, and that beautiful pixelated art style really suits the game. It's a single player shooter with a very simple story, great soundtracks, and it's only gonna take you about 2 to 3 hours to complete. Next up at number 22, we got Polygon, an awesome multiplayer tactical shooter that I cover multiple times in my channel before. Polygon is more of a low budget version of a Battlefield game with very similar style of a Conquest-like game modes, a large scale map that you can play with up to 32 players online. There's a good variety of weapons and customization, but there's a bit of a grind to unlock some of the attachment and weapons. Is something you have to keep in mind. Or let's say if you have a pretty low-end PC or a laptop but you want to play games like Overwatch 2 but your PC is not powerful enough to run the game. If that's the case, next up we got Paladins, a pretty popular hero-based arena shooter that goes head-to-head against games like Overwatch. Primarily a 5v5 hero shooter with tons of customizable champions. Despite being somewhat of an old game, it's still having more than 3,000 plus daily players on Steam, which is really great to see in 2024. Moving on at number 20, we got Enlisted, a free-to-play World War II first-person shooter that got pretty popular after the recent release on Steam. It's a pretty large-scale online multiplayer shooter where you can command your own squad, and you can customize each of these squad members with unique loadouts, different roles, even some personal customization. There's different stages of the World War II with real-life location with historical accuracy, and you are giving access to some of the major faction in the World War II as well. Just like any other free-to-play shooter, there is a bit of a grind to unlock some of the in-game stuff, but still a pretty solid World War II shooter to check out right now. When we talk about super hardcore tactical first-person shooters, there's no any better free-to-play option than Operation Harsh Doorstop. This is a very hardcore tactical military simulation style of a shooter with a lot of customization, mod support, and incredible amount of fun stuff that you can do in the game. I would say this is more of a sandbox style of a game rather than a typical first-person shooter. There is a solid community behind the game making new stuff, new mods to the game, which is really great to see. The whole package is completely free to play. There's no DLC or any added content. Go check the game out if you're into super hardcore tactical shooters. Planetside 2 is a massively multiplayer online first-person shooter. Initial release back in 2012, and right now it is more than 12 years old, which is crazy to think about. I used to play this game a lot back in the day, but I haven't really go back and check it out for a very long time. It's definitely not the most popular game on our today's list, but still holding on to about 1,000 daily concurrent players on Steam, which is great to see. If you're into post-apocalyptic first-person shooters like Stalker, but looking for something new and fun to play, look no further than our next game, and that is Stalcraft X. It's a massively multiplayer online survival first-person shooter set in the open world of Chernobyl exclusion zone, and the environment is filled with mutants and anomalies. You can explore this massive open world with your friends or completely by yourself, but it's going to be very challenging. Go check the game out right now. It is very popular, having more than 21,000 plus daily concurrent players on Steam. And next up we got the pretty popular free-to-play hero shooter Overwatch 2, and it is one of those games that got so many negative reviews over the years. But as someone who enjoyed the game more casually, I would say I had a really fun time playing the game initially at launch. So overall, if you're into hero shooters, you probably already played this game by now. And talking about hero shooters, I want to mention a game that is going to come out pretty soon, and that is Fragpunk. It's an upcoming free-to-play 5v5 hero shooter, kind of similar to a game like Valorant, but when it comes to gunplay, it is much more forgiving and fun to play. The game has a pretty cool mechanic called shard cards, where you can literally use them at the right time to change the outcome of the round, which is something we haven't really seen before in a round-based shooter. Anyway, the game is going to be free to play. It's still on very early stage of playtest, and I believe some of the creators already got access to the game, and hopefully you'll be able to see open beta or a full release of this game pretty soon. Alright, next up at number 14, we got a first-person shooter that absolutely need no introduction, and that is Call of Duty Warzone. And I gotta be honest, some people absolutely hate Call of Duty Warzone, but people who love this kind of game play this game every single day, so it's all depend on your personal preference, I would say. And with the recent release of Black Ops 6, the integration will be added to the Warzone pretty soon, and I'm expecting to see more people will jump in and try the game out in the upcoming few months. Alright, if I haven't really had this game on our today's list, some people is going to be pretty angry in the comment section, and I'm talking about Team Fortress 2. And it is a first-person shooter that need absolutely no introduction, arguably one of the best hero shooters that I played so far, but I haven't really go back and checked the game out in a recent few months. But despite everything, it's arguably one of the most popular games on Steam to this day. Combat Master Season 2 is arguably the most popular free-to-play game among low-end PC gamers. It's an incredibly fun, casual first-person shooter. Rather than saying it's similar to Call of Duty, I can safely say they basically rip off Call of Duty and put it to a pretty small package to everyone to enjoy. The game got pretty similar game modes, weapons, customization, battle pass, even some cosmetic bundles, and the recently added shipment map, even the battle royale mode are extremely similar. So if you're looking for a fun AAA Call of Duty style shooter to play on your low-end potato PC, Combat Master is absolutely the game for you. Next up we got Destiny 2, an extremely popular open world looter shooter. But Destiny 2 is a kind of a game that if you're into it, you're really into it, and you're not gonna basically play any other game. But if you're not into looter shooter genre, it's a game that you're simply going to ignore, just like myself. I played the initial few hours completely single player. It's pretty fun to play, but to get the best out of this, you need to have a bunch of friends to play alongside with you. Alright, moving on to top 10 games. Next up we got Arena Breakout Infinite. This is a free-to-play hardcore realistic extraction style of a shooter, very similar to a game like Escape from Tarkov, and there's a massive open world style of a map to explore, loot and gather resources, and also you can complete different missions, challenges to get additional rewards. The game is going to come out pretty soon on Steam, but right now if you want to get the early access version, you can download the game through their website with a direct launcher, and it is completely free to check out. Halo Infinite is arguably one of the most iconic first-person shooters on our today's list, and the multiplayer portion of this game is completely free to play, and I did check out the game at launch and I wasn't that impressed, but since then the game got so many new updates, new content, bug fixes and everything, then now the game is feel like a more of a complete package. If you like playing Halo but you never try out the game before, now is a great time to jump back and enjoy the game. It's relatively popular on Steam, having close to like 5,000 daily concurrent players. Next up at number 8 we got Xdefiant, one of the biggest free-to-play first-person launches that happened this year. A pretty popular Call of Duty style arcade shooter from Ubisoft. The game got few different factions from other Ubisoft games like Watch Dogs, Tom Clancy's The Division, Far Cry, Rainbow Six Siege, and they all got their own unique abilities and kit that you can deploy in the battlefield. As someone who put close to like 100 hours into the game, I would say that it's a pretty fun shooter to play. Overall, it's a pretty solid alternative if you don't want to spend $70 on the latest Call of Duty game. Moving on, next up we got a brand new first-person shooter that came out pretty recently, and that is Spectre Divide. This is a free-to-play 3v3 competitive tactical shooter with a very unique mechanic called duality, and you can use this mechanic to control two characters at the same time, and you can use it to defend both sides, cover your own cross, or just even trade yourself to get some extra kills. There's quite a bit of tactical depth to the game. If you're into tactical shooters and looking for something new to play, this is a great game to check out right now. Alright, next up we got Apex Legends, one of the first few battle royale games to still holding on to this date. It's a BR game that I really enjoy at launch, but I never really got to play it more continuously. Anyway, if you love Apex Legends, you're probably already playing the game by now. Alright, next up we got PUBG, the second most popular battle royale game on the market, and the people always argue PUBG is more of a third-person shooter, but I personally only play PUBG on first-person mode because the gunplay is so fun and satisfying. It's a game that I put close to like 1,000 hours and I had so many fun memories with it, and it's one of the best battle royale games to check out in 2024. Alright, moving on at number 4 we got Valorant, the popular 5v5 round-based hero shooter from Riot Games. I honestly don't really have to explain anything. If you love playing Valorant, you're probably already playing the game by now, but if you're not much into the competitive scene, you're probably gonna ignore the game. Anyway, if you want to check out the game, it is completely free to play. Next up at number 3 we got Delta Force, one of the most popular upcoming free-to-play shooters that we got the chance to play a few times over the last few months. It's one of the most impressive first-person shooters that I've played this year, with incredible gunplay, huge destruction, large-scale maps, and I can't wait for the full release. And I'm happy to say the game is going to come out in the 5th of December, about a month time. So if you're watching this video a few months later, the game is probably already out on Steam. Alright, next up at number 2 we got The Finals, one of the best games to came out in late 2023 and still holding on to about 20,000 daily concurrent players on Steam. This is a free-to-play arena style of a first-person shooter representing a large-scale, fully destructible environment where you will fight with other players inside this virtual game show. The initial launch for the game was a massive success. Since then the popularity is kinda declined, but recent season 4 added some much needed changes, brand new stuff, brand new content to the game, and now the game is kinda making a comeback. Overall, it's a great time to jump back and check out Finals if you're into arena style of shooters. Alright, at number 1 we got Counter-Strike 2, arguably one of the most popular first-person shooters ever made, and some people people might agree, some people disagree, but it's one of the best competitive shooters you can play right now. I'm someone who puts so much hours into all CSGO, and I'm a big fan of that, but the most recent Counter-Strike 2 changes was never really clicked with me, so I stopped playing the game continuously. But once in a while I jump back and try the game out. It's still pretty fun to play. Well, there you have it, guys. These are the 50 of the best free-to-play first-person shooter games that you can play right now in late 2024. And honestly, this video took so much time and effort to make, so if this video helpful to you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned to the channel as we cover pretty much all content related to free-to-play games. So I'll catch you guys soon in the next one. Stay safe.